Serving their community is who they are because they love where they live. REMAX 3D Real Estate is proud to bring you Heart of Greenville, a video series dedicated to celebrating all the wonderfully great things about Greenville, Texas. On every episode, Dennisha Denney will share Greenville's story through the stories of people who call Greenville home. This is Heart of Greenville.
Thank you so much for watching Heart of Greenville. On this episode, we brought on Mark Reisner, who is the headmaster at Greenville Christian School. I really enjoyed getting to learn more about Mark, especially about his childhood. He seemed to like to get into a lot of trouble, which is funny now that he's the headmaster of Greenville Christian School. Before we get into my conversation, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Thank you so much to REMAX 3D Real Estate and also to Triton Networks. REMAX serves our local community, including Hunt County and all of the surrounding counties. And Triton Networks is this one-source provider for businesses for their internet, their phones, and their network security. Thank you so much to our sponsors. Here's my conversation with Mark Reisner. Hey y'all, I'm Dennisha Denney, your host of Heart of Greenville. And today we're sitting down at the landmark on Lee Street at the third floor at the Landing. And my guest today is our very own headmaster at Greenville Christian, Mr. Mark Reisner. How are you today, Mark?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here, Dennisha. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to come on the show. I know I kind of had to twist your arm and Sherry's arm. Well, I didn't have to twist Sherry's arm. I had to twist your arm, and it took both of us to get you in this seat.
It took more than the two of you to get me here. I had every person in the office counting down when I had to leave and to make sure that I was out.
Well, thank you to all of them. You even arrived early. Well, I've gotten to know you because I helped you and your wife when you guys were moving here by your home. And so I've gotten to hear some of your stories and have lunch and dinners with you. And I want our community to get to know you. Greenville Christian School is very near and dear to my heart. That's where our kiddos go to school and have from day one. And I want the community to know more about Greenville Christian School, but I think it's important that they know about our headmaster. And so I really want them to get to know you today. So I know you're going to naturally gravitate to Greenville Christian because that is your heart and soul with where you are now. And so I want them to find out how you got here. So let's start with, where did you grow up? What did you think you would do in life? And just share some of those stories with us.
Okay. So I'll try to put it in context of a bigger picture, of a bigger narrative, of a bigger story. And that would be a story that's common to humanity that we all live in. And that would be the gospel narrative. So, which basically includes 4 parts. It includes creation, the fall, redemption, and consummation. So So all of our lives fit into that big story somehow. So we have more in common than we have differences. So I have some unique experiences that make me, but certainly history before I was even born and the future after I'm gone impact me today. So in light of that, I was born in St. Louis. And I grew up in a Lutheran home, and we were by all measures a religious family. So our family calendars were marked by Christian holidays, which meant purchasing certain outfits for holidays and having those family pictures and all of those good things. And we were very faithful to attend church, and as a Lutheran, I also participated in catechism class, which, for those who aren't familiar with that, in your junior high years, you take courses in Luther's small catechism, and so you learn the basic tenets of the Lutheran faith. And so I had been exposed to, if you will, a lot of theology and a lot of tradition surrounding Christianity, but none of it sunk in. I was oblivious to what the gospel was saying, what the Bible was saying,
Did you
And
feel forced to be there?
no, it was just, I didn't know any different, as a
Right.
kid.
Right.
Right, I didn't have a lot to compare it to, so I wasn't.
So you were more just going through the motions.
Sure, that would be,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be a good way to describe it. But it had no impact on my life, right? So it had no impact on my affections, on my desires, what was, right and wrong. It probably restrained me a little bit. So what's the bottom line of that? I was an ornery little kid. I was. You would think, right, that you see a headmaster of a school, someone who's invested 30 years of their adult life in education, that they probably were, a nerd their entire life. Couldn't be further from the truth. I was a terrible student.
I mean, when
I
you say
didn't-
terrible,
I mean, terrible. I'm not going to tell you all the stories, because in case our students
happen
here's
to
some-
watch this, I'm quite
yeah.
certain Dave and Denny will watch this
Yeah.
episode.
So, well, let me put it this way. When I was in school, we didn't have job shadowing. Okay, that wasn't really a part of educational practices. But I was in the principal's office so many times. I mean, so many times.
Really?
I knew exactly what the principal did. So, given the fact that I'm now in school administration, looking back, I had job shadowing experiences with my principal. Yes, it was not, the teachers were more excited that I was graduating than I was.
Really?
Yeah.
This is very surprising to me. I
Well,
would have not
it-
guessed this about you.
It's not surprising in the sense that, once again, I was just following the patterns and the habits and the, and the ways of the world. And I was involved in athletics, so I was in whatever you want to call that school culture that tends to celebrate more than it should, and perhaps celebrate the wrong things more than it should. And so that's what I conform to. So, yeah.
Did your parents ever threaten to send you like to military school or anything? I'm getting a gauge on how bad was this.
The thing about it was, I mean, I don't know, I guess every parent generation has this struggle. Parents now, with technology and all that kind of stuff. But I really don't think, so this was in the 70s, so I was in school in the 60s and the 70s, and I really don't think my parents really had a clue about all the things that were going on, all the opportunities we had, and my parents had the financial wherewithal to make opportunities available. So, yeah, I'll leave
Okay, let's talk about this. What did you do after you graduated? Did
Okay.
you know you were going to go into education at that
Absolutely
point?
not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I had no clue what I was going to do. But everyone in my high school went to college. It was fairly professional community, and it was just a foregone conclusion that that's what you did. So I went to the large state university, right, that had the athletic programs and all the, the hoorah and stuff. Joined a fraternity, got involved in all that kind of stuff. And while I was there, I was at a party, and I was kind of sitting on stairs and looking out at all these co-eds at this party. And I'd never really thought about who I was, what I was doing, where I was going. And the thought came to my mind, or the question came to my mind. I asked myself, is that me looking at these students? And it scared me, and I said, I've got to get out of here.
Wow.
So looking back on that experience, I understand that to be really God hounding after me, God quickening, kind of like in the story of the prodigal, right? Where the prodigal is out with the pigs and living selfishly, and he comes to his senses. Well, that was kind of a moment for me where I came to my senses, not because I had figured something out or that I was smart, because we've already established that I wasn't very smart. But I said, I got to get out of here. So I transferred to the University of Tulsa, where nobody knew me.
Ah, so you
And
had
I
a
could
fresh start.
Exactly.
Yes.
So while I was there, within the first couple weeks of school, a Nigerian student, petroleum engineering graduate student, came by my dorm room and shared the gospel with me.
Really?
So here you have, we're talking Tulsa in the Bible Belt, right? We didn't have right, Bible Belt. We're supposed to send missionaries out, right? We're
Right.
sending people around the world. But no, a Nigerian student came and shared the gospel with me. And that was just another step of I wasn't seeking after God. I wasn't trying to be a good boy. I wasn't trying to join a choir, any of that kind of stuff. God was hounding me down. And just continued to put believers, Christians into my life. And what was important about who he brought, God sometimes can be accused of being fairly smart. But he brought a particular type of people that helped me to think about what Christianity was, who Jesus was, what it meant to be a follower of Jesus, and not just participate in, this time, not Northern Lutheran religion, but this time, Bible Belt religion, but what was authentic Christ following? What did that look like? So God strategically put these guys who I thought, well, the first thing I was invited to was at a campus ministry, and when I walked in, there were a bunch of students sitting on the floor with their legs crossed, clapping and singing. And I thought, no, this isn't going to work. But once again, the guys that God brought to my life had similar backgrounds and were not that. And so that was key for me. So over a course of that year, God opened my eyes through prayer, through studying His Word, and regenerated my heart and my mind, coming to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And that, as the first time, at that point, one of the consequences of my wandering and being lost and being in love with all these other things, that God gave me a desire to learn and know truth. So it was a significant change in my life, and that's when I got interested in really school for the first time. So, anyways, so I can keep going from there, I guess.
That's a really cool story, though, and that gives a lot of background to you
Right.
and your beliefs and the journey that God put you
Right.
on. And what did you teach? Did you teach? You got your degree in education?
Nope.
Oh, you didn't?
I did not.
Oh, you chose not to. Okay.
I did not. So I guess one of the things, there's a lot of advantages to being a bad kid and being a principal, right? Being a school administrator.
Right.
Right. I mean, you kind of know.
You know how they think.
Exactly. Right. So, like, you haven't done anything that I haven't done. You haven't gone anywhere that I haven't gone. I've thought your thoughts. Okay, so let's just, I'm on your turf. No, I actually got a degree in cell biology from the University of Tulsa, and then from there went to graduate school in cell biology, biochemistry. And I was at St. Louis U, and I was involved in an urban church. and got involved with some urban kids. And a lot of it was playing sports and things like that. And I had a great interest in their lives and hanging out with them, and I enjoyed it. And I thought, okay, God, what is this all about? Because once again, as a believer, right, I thought that following Christ was more than just going to church, but it meant a life of obedience, a life of growing in His grace and knowledge to know His will. I think that God calls us to a vocation, not just a job, but a calling. Vocation is a job, to build culture for His glory. So that's the cultural mandate found in Genesis. So I had no idea. I was just like, my dad always told me, son, the only thing you have to do when you get out of school is work the rest of your life. So I thought, well, that's not very exciting.
Right.
I mean, that's one way to put it. So he said, if you want to stay in school and you're enjoying it, stay in school. So I thought, college is great. I love it. And so I stayed in school, still just pursuing the sciences. And so at that point, I thought, okay, God, you've given me an interest in these kids and in their lives. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. How am I going to go from doing research in protein chemistry to engaging in their lives? And I thought, teaching, education. So I just finished up my master's degree in the sciences, went back and picked up my education courses that I needed to get to be state certified. Got that and started teaching. I only wanted to teach in the city of St. Louis because I only wanted to work with those kids. I didn't want to go anywhere else and do anything else.
Oh, and God had other plans.
Right. And I gave myself 5 years. I thought, well, right, good. Someone who's been trained in the science likes to do experiments, right? So that was part of my thinking. I said, okay, God, I'll give you 5 years, and if I was mistaken and I don't know what I was thinking, but I got an education and this is not where you're calling me to, I'll go back to graduate school. I got to Christmas after the first semester and wrote my letter of resignation after one semester to go from graduate school in a science laboratory to a high school classroom in an urban setting is a seismic change. And I said, I can't do this. God, you're faithful to me. I've got to stay with this. And by the end of the year, I was a vegetable. But I made it my 5-year commitment. And I can keep, so then at 5 years, after I got married to Lori, right?
Right.
And so we got married late. So we had kids late as well. So we're kind of older parents. We're kind of like, is that your dad or is that your grandfather? Oh, that's my dad. Kind of like kids would ask my kids questions. And we both quit our jobs. That makes sense, right?
Oh, right.
Right. And went back to school. And that's when I picked up my administrative requirements. And I then started administrating in public schools in northern Missouri, pretty much in northern Missouri. And so how did I go from public school to Christian education, right? It seems like a reasonable question. We have 3 children, Rebecca, Joshua, and Nathan. And Rebecca was in kindergarten, and I was the assistant superintendent in this public school. And we had to decide what we wanted to do with our children. And at first, I said, I've always had an interest in Eastern Europe. Went over there right after the Berlin Wall fell, because I just was excited about the things that the church was doing and God was doing in Eastern Europe. And I said, well, what happens if we get a job in Eastern Europe? So we had 3 kids under 5, and Lori was not too excited about going in that direction. And she goes, why don't you get a job in a Christian school? I said, well, you have to understand, right? I'm a public school administrator. You're asking me to apply to a Christian school, right? Could be seen a little bit suspiciously, right? And I'd never been in a Christian school before as a student.
Until you came to Greenville Christian?
No. This was the first Christian school.
Oh, the first Christian school.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm still in Missouri, and so sorry about that. So we applied for positions in Christian school and took a job in Tennessee. So my first job as the head of school was in Tennessee. And so we chose to get our kids involved in Christian education, and I got involved. That drove me to get involved in Christian education. So wow, this is getting long. So from there, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about...
Fast forward.
Let's fast forward a little bit, and let's talk about how you got to Greenville Christian, that little section.
Okay.
And then I want to talk about real quickly what your experience has been like at
Here.
Greenville Christian.
Okay, fair enough. So went to Tulsa, and from Tulsa, my kids all graduated, and we were trying to find a place like in between where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids go, why don't you apply for a job in Texas? Why Texas? I mean, it's in the wrong direction. But they were adamant about us moving to Texas.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so do you really trust a 20-year-old kid to give you guidance on where you should live? So we applied to Greenville Christian School and one other school in Texas, because we thought if we were close enough to Dallas, we could fly the kids in and out, and we could do that, and so on and so forth. And we were offered the position here and moved to Texas just about 2 years ago.
Yes.
So we are now, I don't know if we're officially Texans. I don't know if anybody's adopted.
You're still working on it.
Yeah.
You're still in progress, but we're so glad you're here. So you started not long after, you started, and then it wasn't too much later than that COVID hit.
Right.
And you and I were talking about beforehand, we were going to talk about what you love about Greenville, and you were like, my experience with Greenville and Texas pretty much starts with COVID. And
Right.
so that's such an interesting perspective. So what was it like navigating everything with that and working through the community and those sorts of things?
Right. At one point, I want to say it was a good experience because of no one liked the downside of it, but to look for at the half full side of the glass, it was very profitable. So I think of the parents, of the challenges that they had during that time. And at least the parents that I had to deal with took on the responsibility, the additional burden, and the additional challenges extremely well. Had very little complaining from parents. I think that within GCS we had very little division over decisions that were being made about that. The teachers were phenomenal. I'm very proud to be a part of this faculty. They had the challenges of some homeschool instruction and getting up to speed with, Google Classroom and all the technology, whatever that.
All the things that we had to do to be able to learn at home.
And our faculty came in every day. Some of them were infected, did their quarantine. they were right back in as soon as they could, came in smiling, working with the kids. So I have great, in the students. I mean, we asked all kinds of crazy things of our students, to do. And it was like, I know when I would have been in high school, I would have told you to, take a hike. But our kids cooperated. They participated, played their role, did their part, and we stayed very healthy and really had a successful year last year. So I've had a chance in the COVID circumstances to see some of the best of people that I was associated with, whether they were parents, our kids, our teachers, and I don't, if our kids have the attitudes and the effort that they demonstrated this past year going forward and the rest of their life, Greenville's going to have some great citizens, and this generation will make good things happen in the community.
I want to ask you one more question
Okay.
about Greenville Christian, and then I'm going to ask you your final question.
Okay.
That we're going to pick a number for.
Right.
So my last question is, when families come in to look at Greenville Christian and consider it for their children,
Sure.
what, kind of in a nutshell, do you tell them about Greenville Christian and how we're different?
Okay. Well, every school has a vision. Every school has a mission. Every school has some idea of what it takes to take an individual to learn, to grow, and develop habits to live a good life as an adult. That's across the board. The unique thing about a Christian school is what we think is a good life, and it's not what I think a good life is. What a life well lived is one that God has clearly spoken about, and it's living a life that's faithful to Him, not serving and advancing yourself, not glorifying yourself, not being concerned about yourself in this world, but trusting in Him and relying on His authority for guidance and truth and so on and so forth. So our goal is to raise up Christian scholars, integrating faith in Jesus Christ and the pursuit of knowledge of truth, leading to godliness. And it's that conviction that we think will result in a student living life well. So, but we think that God gave language as a gift, but how do we honor God with the gift of language? How do we use it well in conversations in public? Are we abrasive, or are we gentle and gracious, but yet thoughtful and reasoned in how we think? Obviously, I'm in sciences. I love to wonder about God's creation.
You always ask a lot of questions.
And
Well, I know when I'm talking to you, you ask a lot of questions. So I try to think, okay, what is he going to ask me about this? And so how do I frame this up? But I think that's great. I want to say I think you've done a great job coming into the school. And
well, thank you.
I know my kiddos have enjoyed you being there, and they love that you pop into their classroom. Sometimes maybe they need a sub, and you walk in, and you're the sub. And I think that's great that you get into the classroom still today. And it makes you approachable for the students because you've sat in their classroom, you're in the hallways, they see you. And of course, we have incredible teachers.
Right.
I mean, I echo what you said about them. I mean, they're there because they genuinely love our
They do.
kids and they love
Yeah.
the Lord, and
Right.
they're there to serve. And so just thank you for all you do for our students and for our school.
It's a lot easier here than it is other places.
Well, that's good. That's
Yes.
good to know. Okay, I told you I was going to ask you one question, a random question at the end, for you to pick a number between 1 and 20, and that's going to be your random
All right.
question.
Let's go 16.
16. When you are 90 years old,
Wow.
what will matter most to you?
Well, I hope the same thing that matters to me most now is what happens in eternity. I mean, I'll certainly be close at 90
At
to
90?
to that question being resolved, whether I want it to be or not. But yeah, I would think that that question will be something there, and my response will be, to live right now in the light of eternity. And if God has left me here to continue to participate in His redemptive work, what would that look like?
I love
So.
That's a great answer. I mean, that's why God has us here, right?
Right.
To fulfill our purpose and,
Right.
to share His gospel. So, and you are doing that. You get to do that every single day.
Yeah.
With
And
all of our students.
I might ask, like, what kind of dessert, that I could eat.
That you could have.
Yeah,
That's going to
regularly.
matter to you.
Yes. So something big and something immediate and small.
That's funny.
I'll enjoy desserts then, I'm sure, at 90.
Well, what's your favorite dessert?
What's my favorite dessert? Wow.
I said that was my
I
last
know.
question. We're going to make this the last question.
Yeah. I would say, like, any dessert, but wow, that's tough. I like my wife's brownies.
Okay.
I can say that she just made some brownies with all this extra chocolate stuff put in it that's probably not healthy.
I'm sure.
But I do enjoy those, and
I don't think at 90 you're going to care, though. You're
right,
just going to want the brownies.
right. That's what I said this week too. I don't care what impact it has on my body. I'm going to enjoy this brownie.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for agreeing to sit down with me today and share your story. We are happy to have you a part of Greenville and a part of Texas. So you are welcome here. And yes, you are included as a Texan now.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. You're so welcome. All right, I'll see you around campus.
Very good.
Thank you for watching Heart of Greenville. This video series, which is designed to celebrate Greenville, Texas, is spearheaded by REMAX 3D Real Estate.